the time I reached 18, 19 years old, I really wasn't eating that many vegetables, and my health was starting to go down, and I wasn't eating that much fruit. And, of course, fruit and vegetables have tremendous amount of enzymes in them, which are vital to, intake so we maintain our health. When I got sick, I really had to start looking at what was going on with me, because I was lacking energy. I was hypoglycemic, borderline diabetic by the time I was 20. I was doing typical things that those age groups do, drinking and, drinking a lot of caffeine, drinking alcohol. And so I came to a point where I needed to really step back and take a look at what I needed to change, because I was getting pneumonias and I was not doing well. So I took it upon myself to just had a knowingness to do a fast. I'd never done one before. No one had ever told me about doing a fast. And I just knew that I needed to change something in my body. So I proceeded to start on just drinking water, and someone said, you need to go to a health food store and you need to get at least some vegetable broth. I said, what is a health food store? I didn't even know what a health food store was. This was back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I walked into a health food store, and that's where my journey began, because I picked up a few magazines. I started studying different things. I started realizing that our food supply had been lacking minerals for a very long time. And, as far back as into the 1930s, there were even Senate studies that showed that our food supply was really low in minerals. And so I knew that I needed minerals, and I started studying, where am I getting minerals from? I knew I needed enzymes. I wasn't getting live active enzymes in my meat and potatoes and, high sugar diet. So I really started picking apart what it is I need to do, and I started applying these things to me, and I studied everything I could read. I studied with some very incredible teachers that have since passed. Dr. Bernard Jensen, I took several classes from him. I studied with the Cushis, macrobiotics. I studied with many, many different alternative type people at that time, and I got so much value out of this and understanding. Now, when I applied it to myself, I started getting better. And so my family saw this, and of course, they took note of it, and they wanted to know what I was doing, and then I started sharing it with their friends, and it just started snowballing. And instead of having a career in acting and singing, and I ended up in nutrition, which I never dreamed I would. I ended up working with a tremendous amount of people that had cancer and diabetes and AIDS, as well as healthy people, athletes, professional athletes. I ended up consulting over the years about 15,000 people. And what I saw in each of these people when I was consulting with them was, again, this lack of minerals and lack of enzymes in a lot of their diets. So I also recognized that trying to teach them to eat a better diet a lot of the times would be so discouraging to them, because they were already in overwhelm with the sickness, or already in overwhelm with all of their work and day-to-day activities they were doing. And some of them would actually apply it, and of course they got better. But a lot of people were just let down that, well, I can't do this, it's just too much. So eventually what I decided to do was, I need to find something that is easily taken, easily gotten, not too expensive, that would give to people these minerals, these vitamins, and make it 100% assimilable, or as close to as possible. So they could get these things in their diet that were so vital that they weren't going to get otherwise. And that's where I started researching different things. Now, I used algae to begin with. I am very studied in algae, and at the time, they were about the highest mineral source that I could find in a pill form, whereby I could say, take this if you don't have the time to do all this, and this is going to provide you 5 to 7% minerals. And that's far better than what they were doing. They refused to eat seaweeds, and they weren't going to change their diet that much. So I saw great improvement with just the addition of algae. I used different forms at the time. Also, I worked with some barley at the time, and I saw good improvement with that. But I started further researching and saying there's got to be something out there that has more mineral content in it. And when I started researching the different grasses, I found, just as Dr. Ann Wigmore had found, that wheatgrass was the superior grass to all the other grasses. And if you could grow the wheatgrass in a soil that had the nutrients in it that were then made available to the plant, and you really understood that soil making is the basis of the health of the plant. Just like if our guts have the good flora in them, and they have, all the things there needed to really give us the nutrient value, then we're going to be healthier. So if they have the ability to take those things from the foods we're eating, they will then give that back to our body. Same thing in the soil. So with that in mind, I set out to really look at how could we grow wheatgrass in the most optimum type of soil. And, of course, Dr. Ann Wigmore was a great proponent of composting, and, composting done correctly really builds a wonderful soil. And so we just went through all the stages of learning this, grew the wheatgrass in this beautiful soil and in greenhouses, and then sent it off after we grew it and juiced it and freeze-dried it, and sent it to a lab, and I was astounded at the results that came back. I couldn't believe the amount of minerals that were available in this product. It was anywhere from 22 to 26% minerals per serving, and the algae had been 5 to 7% minerals. So it was a huge jump.
At this stage, is it still the wheatgrass rather than the young wheatgrass?
No, this is where it's very interesting. When wheatgrass is growing, it will, of course, it first goes through a sprouting stage, and then it progresses up into a little shoot of grass. The grass comes up, and it is at that stage when it is the most nutrient dense. And at the point where it starts to branch off, which we call jointing, that energy now is no longer in the grass blade. It is now being used to send up the shoot that will develop into the wheat berries. Those wheat berries contain gluten, and that is where you are making flour from. And in the grass stage, in its vegetable stage, which is that young wheatgrass, it has no gluten, and it has the most nutrient value to it. So we would cut it right before the joining stage would take place, getting the maximum nutrient value there.
Okay, just so in that process, we've got the organic wheatgrass. We've got you take it at